Hey everyone, Stegar here and welcome back to Hunterville. In today's episode we're building a motorway tunnel underneath part of the city with a full interchange on the southern end and a half interchange on the northern end. In this episode I also do a small amount of work on a higher density area beside one of the interchanges, as well as do some small expansion to the suburban areas of the city in preparation for the next episode. So here I'm starting on the first entrance to the tunnel, and I also placed down those 3 blocks of houses that I just started deleting, and I did this like this so that I have an idea of what used to be here before the highway, as I imagine that this area of the city is a bit older since it's close to the downtown, and there would have been houses and things here before the highway was built. So I was just keeping that in mind and trying to have this take up no more land than it absolutely had to. But yeah, here I'm starting on the highway and placing down a few of the close highways just to kind of lead out of that tunnel. And now starting on the exit ramp, one kind of loops around and goes back up to this road, and one kind of comes off a bit more gently. But I imagine that that road that it's connecting to is one of the main roads, and it goes right into the central square of the city. And here I'm now just kind of changing this and doing the intersection markings with the intersection marking tool. I also modified those nodes with node controller so they're much more gentle, and just thinking about how to have this so that these 3 lanes become 2. And with those markings it kind of would signify that the ramp coming from the intersection where they'd have to turn right across the intersection to get into the highway, I wanted to give that priority, as otherwise that traffic wouldn't be able to get through and it would just back up on to that other road. And whereas the other direction they have dedicated lanes right through that road that leads into it for a while. And here I'm just working on the main road itself and putting in some of the intersection markings. I think I end up changing this whole road off camera so that at some points it is a whole 6 lanes wide, and at other points it's 4 or 3 depending on how many lanes of traffic are required. But now here we're moving on to where the loop ramp connects up with the tunnel. And I put in the intersection markings first, and then am now using the controller and setting the outwards numbers to sort of allow the road or the lanes of the road to match up a lot better with the lanes in the tunnel. And by doing that I think I had to shift the roads over by like 4 meters or something from where they would usually be, and basically do the opposite of that on the other loop ramp and shift that by 4 meters in the opposite direction to line up. And then the curve of the loop ramp sort of allows it so that the roads aren't like covering over each other and sort of clipping in the way and stuff. And then just softening the corners with no controller too. But now anyway we're over to the other side of this interchange. This is very much the same as the first side, a loop ramp leading into the tunnel, and then just a regular sort of slightly curved ramp leading to the other direction that will lead over a bridge onto the other side of the city. But I'm not going to work on that part of the city for quite a while, and I'll probably consider narrowing the river when I decide to do that, as I feel like the river's a bit wide for what I initially had planned for the city. But anyway, that is something that I will do in the future when it comes time to do that. And here just another intersection with the intersection marking tool, and this is kind of an important one, as I think this one's the traffic coming from across the river and going into the center of town. You've got 2 lanes for that, and then just like 1 lane leading in the other direction off that little slip road, as there's not really that much out there. But here is after I've upgraded that road to being 6 lanes and just putting down a whole lot of arrow markings so that people know where to go. I've noticed recently that there's actually quite a lot of arrow markings around on highways and things, just looking around Google Earth, or at least in New Zealand, I think it's also for tourists, because on some roads it kind of helps just reminding people that we drive on the left instead of on the right like most of the world. And here also just going around with these little regular bushes and trying to do some sort of detailing to make this intersection look nice, or the interchange should I say. I think I ended up kind of fixing up one of the loop ramps and changing the curvature of it because I thought it was a bit much and looked a bit unusual. So I had to go back and do this again for that ramp when I changed it. But anyway, that detailing, I think it looks quite nice and just adds a little extra touch that you don't get with just plain grass texture. And here just putting some trees along the side of these houses to sort of act as noise reduction. Like in real life, I don't really think they serve much of a purpose in game other than decoration. But anyway, just putting that in there because it kind of makes the area look a bit better. And now we're moving over to kind of the second part of this area, which is building some higher density stuff as well as a massive parking lot. I actually haven't done much high density stuff since about September 2019, so this was a nice change, let's put it that way. And just putting down a whole lot of different buildings, including a few from the Green Cities DLC, which is what I'm placing down now. These ones with the plants on the roof and the wooden textures and things, and just making them line up so it sort of looks like one building, but yeah, kind of doesn't or something. And just, yeah, adding in more buildings in these gaps. And I think I moved that one over on the right. Yeah, I do, just to sort of line it up a lot better. And then just a few more buildings. I think I do some small like plaza detailing thing outside of that one on the corner soon, just to kind of fill in that corner a bit. And as well as these apartments here that I kind of find this building sort of nice but sort of unusual given its shape, since it's kind of on a sort of angle. I think it's a vanilla building as well, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, here we're just filling in some of the dead space between the parking lot roads, car park, and the road that runs alongside here, and just putting some trees to fill in that area, as well as some trees along the side of this bridge. That bridge just leads another road across the highway and doesn't have any interchanges or things like that. It's just to get from one side of the highway to the other along what I imagine would be a very necessary road, as we're quite close to the downtown, and if people have plenty of opportunities to drive down various different roads, hopefully they won't all take the same one. Plus a large portion of the downtown is yet to be built close to the river, and that will probably connect it quite well. But here I'm just doing the last little bits of detailing in this area, putting in some dumpsters and some stain decals and things, as well as a fence around this highway, as I kind of felt it was important to have it all fenced off, as people could otherwise just walk out onto the highway, which probably isn't safe. But that brings us to the end of this section of the episode. So now we've shifted to the northern end of the tunnel, and before we actually start working on the section of highway leading from the tunnel, I wanted to first place down a few blocks of houses, as these I imagine would have been here before the highway was built, and some houses had to unfortunately be destroyed to allow the highway to come through. And yeah, here just placing down a few of my pre-detailed houses which is a pretty simple process, to be honest, as it's just literally picking out random houses from here and placing them all down. Yeah, I imagine this area would have existed beforehand and got bulldozed, and these houses where I'm actually spending the most time, I think I end up bulldozing them in the next episode to make way for part of the highway. Anyway, I decided to put some pools in these ones for, I think this is the first time in the series where I've actually used pools, but I decided to add them anyway as I remembered I had them and wanted to do something a bit different with these houses, as all the others are just plain with like a trampoline and a few trees and things. But now I think we're going to actually move over to starting this highway. And here I wanted to kind of have that one road that goes in the similar direction to which the highway is going to go. I wanted to basically use that as a guide for where this highway would go, as technically that piece of road would already be owned by some sort of local government or something who, you know, owns all the roads and things, as well as all the houses on the side need to be purchased and bulldozed before you can build this highway. And for this one there would have been a lot of excavation as well to allow it to be sunken like it is here. Anyway, I had to shift the highway over, and that resulted in the houses at the top of the screen then getting bulldozed, as you see me doing now. And that's basically the last thing I had to do for the general layout of this area, and now we're sort of moving on to detailing it a bit more and placing down these concrete barriers to stop the traffic from driving in the wrong direction or something if they were originally going in the right direction anyway. And then using these like fan buildings from the Dole nuclear power plant pack to kind of create the ventilation building for the tunnel, because usually when you have a tunnel, like quite a large one anyway, you tend to have these ventilation buildings to basically push the car fumes out of there, and so that, you know, people don't asphyxiate or something in the tunnel if there was an incident and they all had to get out of their cars or something. And then I went along with some retaining walls off camera and placed them down along the edge along with some surfaces. There's some pretty horrible like jaggedness from the way that the terrain is sort of going under that, so it's just covering a lot of that up with some trees and then putting some grass and these small bushes in that area too. And now along the other side I wanted a fence because there's a primary school here, or elementary school for you Americans, and maybe that's a bit more easier to understand for those who don't live in New Zealand and have the correct terminology the same terminology that we do. Anyway, I was just placing down a little path between these two disconnected streets, and I think I placed down a path between the street to the right and the next street, and then just placing down a few more trees in this area and trying to fill out the rest of the area so it doesn't look so blank. Then we're going to move over to actually building the underground highway roads for the tunnel, since I haven't done that yet, and decided to leave it to last and include it in the time lapse. This wasn't exactly a very hard process, it just required basically making these ones curved and then a small straight road, and then curving the other side in to connect up with the straight road. But we've almost reached the end of the episode, so if you've enjoyed this one, make sure to leave a like on the video, and if you're new to my channel and enjoy at least this video, I guess, consider subscribing to my channel for more Cities Skylines videos coming in the next couple of weeks or something. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.